You did. Okay. All right. Did we lose half the group?
That's Maryland.
Here they come back. That's fine. All right, good job, guys. Sorry, June, we lost you.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did pretty well. That's awesome.
There's this guy, Kyle Cove.
I have to unmute myself. Hold
So many clicks. All right. Well, welcome to everybody. I think a lot of people have met most of folks. I want to welcome, I think, Sean, it's our first time having you guys here. And so we're so thankful for you to be here. I know Mary Beth and Dave are in Nebraska still or out traveling, so they'll be joining us as well. And they haven't been able to make it yet. So, but anyway, great to have you guys here and great to have everybody here. So, remember our goals. We're going to worship and hear the word where it began. We're going to deepen and enrich our relationship with Christ. We're going to connect scripture and events to the geography. We're going to create and strengthen relationships and fellowship and much more, really. This is going to be fun. So when we're going to do some more of these, and I'll obviously, before we go at each location, I'll give you the scavenger hunt idea. But this is a little pillar in Capernaum, and there's a the ruins of a 5th century synagogue. They also found a lot of the pillars from the original synagogue in Israel or in Capernaum. And what do you see at the top there of that little pillar? Right. And of course, that's an important symbol of the Maccabean revolt and Hanukkah, what's celebrated today is Hanukkah. But down at the bottom, it's got a little tripod, right? Yeah. Well, this is a fun little factoid that a lot of people don't know what the menorah looked like in the temple in Jerusalem, because it was taken away when the Babylonians when the Romans destroyed the temple, the second temple. And a lot of people think it had a tripod because of just this spot here at Capernaum. But I'm going to have a lot of fun little scavenger hunts. I know our youth will enjoy that as well for each site. And I hopefully have enough pictures of each of them. So that's fun. So day 3 is actually day 5 of our travel. I hope you got everybody getting emails from me, the group emails. Anybody not getting this? Okay, great. We're on day 3, Sea of Galilee. We're going to the Jesus boat and Bethsaida. I'm not going to spend much time with Bethsaida, but then also Magdala. So that's what's a part of our day 3. Now, I can let you know that from doing this a number of times, we used to go at the beginning to Caesarea Philippi, which is all the way up north, just about to the border, because that was an important site where Jesus was headed to when he asked the disciples that we've just been hearing in our lectionary, who do you say that I am? It's just a long way up there, and you lose a lot of time around the Sea of Galilee to do that. So I made a decision that we're going to take our time in the Sea of Galilee. You'll perhaps remember this if you watch this recording before we go as well, that the first part of the trip is Sea of Galilee, Jesus's ministry. And then when we go down into Jerusalem, it gets not hectic, but energy, a lot more things to see in much shorter time, this type of thing. So we're going to spend, I really feel like it's important to spend time up north in the Sea of Galilee. This, of course, is the beautiful farming around the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee is the lowest freshwater lake in the world. And this was from our last trip where you will be on a boat ride where you get to go out in the Sea of Galilee like the disciples did. And we had some great pictures that we got to take. Turned out to be good weather. This is a wonderful mosaic that's in Magdala, and we'll talk about that towards the end of our time today. And this is, of course, when you think about the Sea of Galilee, what do you think about? You think about the story we again just heard in our gospel reading a few weeks ago, where Peter sees Jesus walking on the water and says, bid me to come out to you, and Peter does and sinks, and Jesus takes hold of him. This is a beautiful mosaic that you'll see in Magdala. So that's what happens, of course. I wonder what happened to my picture here, but that's okay that we don't have a picture. So we're going to look at Mark 4, not the story of Jesus rescuing Peter, but the stilling of the storm. So we'll do a little bit of work with that ahead of time, again, to front load your noggin here with as much information so that when you're there, more of it, the experience can sink in. So let's do this. Come over here and, oh, thank you, there it is. And we'll stop this share because I want to share my Bible. Okay, so you can see right here, I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. If you've got your Bibles and you want to open it up, that's fantastic. I also brought a few more notebooks. If you like to take notes, I didn't bring pencils, unfortunately, but I didn't get there. But if you want to take notes, again, just so you can take the book along with you, that's great. But you'll note here that this is in Matthew, Mark, Luke. There's 3 gospels. So the other places where we hear about the calming of the storm is in Matthew and Luke. We're going to read it from Mark. And yeah, since some of you are new to not just SLC, some of you are at other churches, etc., that I never put anybody on the spot to find anything in the Bible. My dad never went to a Bible study his whole life because he was afraid that he was going to be asked to do that. But if you are comfortable, oh, there it is. He's locked out. If you are comfortable reading scripture, certainly I'm going to ask for volunteers to do that. And there will be places along the trip where our guide Boaz will take his Bible out and have very different people read. So it's always helpful for me to know who's comfortable. He'll probably ask for volunteers. I even thought about trying to find out ahead of time so you'd have time to, practice, but we'll see about that. But anybody, with all of that said, if this is big enough for you to see, is anybody open to reading this text? I'll scroll it down. It's just a short paragraph there. Please, Sue. Oh, Clay, she beat you to it.
On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took with him in the boat just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased and there was dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with a great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?"
Really cool story. When you just heard that this time, some of you have heard it many times, maybe some the first time, but anything just jump out at you? If you're comfortable just sharing how hard it is to have faith, yes. Especially when the wind is in the boats, yeah.
Well, their response that he doesn't care.
Yes.
Don't you
Oh,
care?
yeah, that does jump out, doesn't it? Don't you care?
Don't you care?
And especially given, let's see, what did he just do? He parables, I think in one of the gospels, he's just fed everybody to, no, that's the Peter story, yeah, okay. Yeah, but you'd think they would know that he's, not gonna
It's
let
not the
them.
first thing they've seen him do, right?
Right,
It's-
exactly.
They've seen other things, and
Yeah.
then they're still like, who is this guy?
Yeah, yeah, please.
It reminds me immediately of parenting. You know, I still remember the moment where my children, you have it, they're looking at you like, don't you care about me? Don't they know? Maybe some people haven't had those moments where they're looking at me like I'm a stranger that doesn't give them.
Yes, really good.
So what it reminds, or what I think about that is in our daily lives,
Yeah,
when the world is falling apart around us. And we think, why me, Jesus?
Yeah.
Why me, Lord? What have I done?
yeah. Yeah.
Do you not care?
Right.
About your children?
Yeah. So there's a lament there, isn't there? When we see all that's going on, either personally, globally. Very helpful, like, yeah, good. Others, like, just what comes to mind? What jumps out at you? He was sleeping, true. And what point being?
They're gonna stop something, he doesn't care.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, or he's not worried.
Yeah.
Obviously. They take on it, because he's sleeping, he's just chilling out there.
He's not worried.
It's a storm.
He's not worried. But that's where I do, this is really helpful because I think the lament is real from our side of it, it seems like he may not care, but we often have that experience of, wake up, are you listening? Yeah, good.
He's just appointed them too, as the disciples.
Yes, okay,
He's
and
told them
Mark,
all, okay, this is what you're gonna do,
right,
and then he gets in the boat, and falls asleep.
right, yeah, he gets involved, falls asleep. Really helpful, okay, so let's throw on a little more stuff to the fire here. Let's go across to the other side. Oops, let me stop the share. What is that about? Let's get that on board here. And I've got to have our guys go little. And this picture, by the way, I took, and so did Craig and Beth. We both have the same picture, and this might have been the one I got from you, but we were both taking pictures.
I think that was.
Yeah, this one was yours. Yeah. And this is on the shores of the Sea of Galilee where we were staying. I believe this was when we were at the hotel, right? In Tiberias, yeah. So hopefully we'll get a really cool view like that as well. Here's the Sea of Galilee. And you've got Capernaum, where we've talked about so far, and we're gonna visit Bethsaida, although there's some really fun debate about where Bethsaida actually was. This is Tiberias, we're gonna stay, Magdala's over here, but this is where he said, let's go to the other side. When he says other side, he means this side. Now, I can put up some other, maps here. These are some of the events around the Sea of Galilee. You can see a lot. You got home of Mary Magdalene, Magdala, Jesus teaches and heals, Sermon on the Mount, which we've done. We might get to see Chorazin and Bethsaida were both cursed by Jesus because they did not respond. He preached the law to them. Various miracles here. He calls James, John, Andrew, feeding of multitudes. Jesus appears to his disciples on the sea, and then he heals the demoniac. So remember I said he's over here and he's going to this side. Okay, and that becomes significant. These are actual docks or, what do you call that? Ports. These are actual ports that, you know, they, through, you know, their investigation, you don't see them on the surface. But, these are actual ports that they identified were there, back in the 1st century. So what does that tell you? There's a lot going on in this lake, and there still is. It is the source of water for Israel. And farming. And as you'll probably learn when you're there, Israel does not get much of their food from other countries. Mainly, especially their produce, their vegetable stuff that's perishable, that can't go from a long distance, because the countries won't sell it to them. That's one reason, but they are very self-sufficient. They grow most everything they have. So if I back up here, when not we as in me, but when archaeologists and people, you know, excavate all these towns, and they've also done Nazareth and other towns, what they find, especially in Capernaum and in Magdala area, is that they're very Jewish areas. They are, there's no pig bones in the garbage. That's one way you know a town was Jewish, because there was no pork, you know? And so there's no pig bones, so they know. Now, when they do archaeology over here on this, what do they find? Lots of pig bones. So in the time of Jesus, at least this is what I've come to learn or understand, that this is the Gentile area. This is the Gentile area. This is the Jewish area. What do you think the disciples thought when Jesus said, let's go across to the other side? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Or why?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, that's probably indeed what they were thinking. And here he is asleep, and what comes along? A storm. It's like, we told you, why are we going over there? So all the things you guys have mentioned are really good. Anything else that strikes you as you hear this story? And I know I didn't see if anybody at home wanted to throw in.
Pastor Bill, just a
Yeah,
question
please,
about the map. We talked about Mount Arbel, and where is that compared to that?
Absolutely.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like we looked down and we could see Magdala or something, but I don't remember where it would have been on one of those maps.
So Mount Arbel is, I believe, right in here, because you see, this is the trade route here to come over, and Mount Arbel, as you look, is right here, and we will go to that the next day. We'll hike up there. Don't worry, it's not a mountain like our mountains. It's a hill, and you get this beautiful view of the whole lake. So that's where it is. And I'm quite confident in the geography of this map. Let's see. Arbella. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so Ryan here, and you know, the maps are a little bit oriented different. Yeah. And I think in this picture, if I went back far enough of me, oh, I just cut it off. This is Mount Arbel going right up there. And so, yeah. Yeah, great question. Okay. You can see across the lake kind of barely, so, anybody been to Tahoe? It's kind of like Lake Tahoe in size. I think it might be a little smaller, but it's got weird feel or interesting feel to it because it's so low. It's just, I don't know, there's something different about being there. Maybe it's all the stuff that you've already heard about what happened there, but it is a pretty tough, if you didn't have a good wind going, it's a tough journey across.
So that other side over there would have been where the pigs were driven into.
There you go. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And happens. I don't think I shared that, did I? with my people here. Share. There you are, Sharon. So the folks at home have it now. Yeah, so what happens right after? He quiets the storm because he's going somewhere. Where's he going? They came to the other side of the sea of the country of the Gerasenes. And when he had stepped out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. And he lived among the tombs, and no one could restrain him anymore, even with a chain, for he had often been restrained in shackles and chains. But the chains he wrenched apart, and the shackles he broke in pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue him. And yes, so, you know, this is that whole legion thing, and he cast them off. And so, of course, what does he find across the way? You know, unholy animals and unholy spirits as such. So, yeah. How does that affect how you see this story? I don't know, that's a more in-depth thing, but think about that for a minute. How does knowing where he's going? Anybody? Give you a chance to think,
Maybe
yeah.
he's trying to soften the disciples to what his actual mission is in spreading the word to the Gentiles also.
Sure, yeah,
Because, I mean, didn't he do that when he went to, was it Syria or where were the other places?
yeah, he went up to Tyre and Sidon, but then he also, like we studied I don't know if it was the last time when we were in Nazareth, how he said, you know, I'm gonna go to the Gentiles and they wanna throw him off a cliff.
Like blasphemy and all that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so he's starting to show them what his mission is, that it doesn't just mean Jewish people, it means the whole, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, other,
I was just saying, like, oftentimes a good teacher will not only talk, but walk the talk.
yeah,
And so I feel like he's going in.
showing them the way. Absolutely, love that.
How about the journey's hard, but the result are good,
Mm,
or once you get there,
yeah, yes, right. And so there's gonna be storms along the way to do the mission.
right?
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful. Yeah, really good. Well, you're gonna be there. You're gonna be on the lake and yeah, please, man.
I have to Google. Sea of Galilee is 13 miles long and 8 miles.
Thank you.
That's your nerd moment of the day.
Mhm. And, you know, yeah. So I'll, let's see, I thought I was sharing, but no, I'm new share, maybe. I'll ask the folks at home what they're seeing now. Folks at home, are you seeing the map?
Find that on your
Yep.
phone.
Yes.
Super, thank you. So if I were to, I'd have to go to my other program, but up to the, up here is the Golan Heights,
Okay.
okay? And this is like a funnel. And so when the wind sweeps down, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. Like, so the fact that there was a storm where the waves got so big, well, just think of Dyes Inlet, you know? I mean, or Liberty Bay. So, you know, it really gets going and it can get big waves and totally swamp a boat. So the people, the fishermen were very aware that this was a dangerous thing. One more little thing to throw on also is, what did people think about water in Jesus's day? They thought it was scary. It's the place of chaos. It's the place of, you know, the unknown and look in the Old Testament, the sea creature Leviathan, you know. So not only is Jesus saying, we're gonna go to those Gentiles, he's going across where, you know, and then the storm is there where, you know, who knows what'll happen. So there was a lot of belief about and fear around water as well. All right. That's,
They could have
please.
just walked.
What's that?
They could.
They didn't have, they could have walked around. It's not that much further, right? And then he wanted to show him something, yeah. And he fell asleep. And that was all part of it. Yeah, love it. Well, I love your guys' connections that so often we feel that way when we're in the storms. We definitely do. So, but he's there to say, peace, be still. And so I always think about, the storms of my own conscience or frustration with myself, and Jesus saying, peace, be still. So, all right. Love it. Let's see, I wanna go back to my Bible program. So the next, well, actually, I don't. The next deal we're gonna do is we're gonna go on to the next spot that we're gonna be. So let's keep going. So there's another great picture of the Sea of Galilee. At the, we're ending it. So, trying to, we got the background. There we go. So the next place we're gonna go after we go out on the boat, we're gonna get off the boat and we're gonna then walk to a really cool museum. And I'm gonna let you learn mostly about this boat there. It's a lot of fun. So I'm not gonna front load too much because there'll just be plenty there, but it's, you think about what's so big deal about seeing an old boat here. I can't remember the exact date, but I want to say it was like 20 years ago. The Sea of Galilee was way low. Like, because again, this is Israel's main source of water. And if like here, if there's a drought over many years, it just starts to go down and down. Well, it got so low that it uncovered the remnants of a fishing boat that had sunk. And what is the thing that will get rid of wood and faster than anything? You got water, but you need oxygen. Well, it sunk into the mud and it had no oxygen. This boat is 100% confirmed to be first century. That's why they call it a Jesus boat. The Jesus boat. We, of course, have no idea. It's very, very doubtful. This was the boat that Jesus was actually in, but it does show you what a fishing boat in the first century looked like. And this is just the bottom of it. So it would have gone up much higher because this is the only part that was preserved. You're really almost just looking at the bottom. About 8 to 9 people can be in there and do the fishing. So, and so you'll get to go to that museum and see that. It's one of the places that you will have an opportunity to do some shopping. There's a nice gift store there that's legit. We'll talk about this more when we talk about logistics, but I try and keep this to a minimum because that's a good point to tell you that one of the challenges to go in anywhere in the world, of course, is that, well, it's a lot of tourism and it can get overwhelming. You know, millions of people go to the Holy Land every year. And it's big business, of course. But our work is going to help you. We got to live in that, but not be overwhelmed by that. And so I'm pretty particular with our guide that there's really 3 places that I kind of say, yes, you'll give us time to shop. This is one. There's another at the Dead Sea where you can buy all the salts and the mud and all that good stuff. And then there's one in Bethlehem. There's a Palestinian family, Christian family that runs a gift shop there. And we usually give you a chance, you know, to do some shopping there. But make it quick. No, so, because people want to do that, but don't ever feel pressured to buy anything. Do not. You don't have to buy a thing, but if you want to, there'll be those times. And then, of course, there'll be times along the way we're going and there's shops and stuff. And then the problem, of course, is if we start stopping, we start to lose time at the places we are. So that's just a little FYI. But this is a fun place to go, and that's that part of the day. Then we finish our day off. We will also go to Bethsaida and maybe Chorazin, like I said, these ruins of cities that were in Jesus's day. Bethsaida, of course, was the hometown of Philip, Andrew, James, and John, I believe. It's coming to my brain right. But I want to tell you about Magdala before we finish up today. So Magdala is where we're gonna finish the day of this day, and one that I've been, all of the tours I've been on, we go there. The first ones, we went there for like 45 minutes to an hour, and I pretty much reserve at least 2 hours for this place, because it's really special. It was, back, I believe in 2008, the Catholic Church was creating a, retreat center. And in the Holy Land, when you build anywhere, you gotta go down. You gotta hunt for all kinds of things, and it's really hard to get permission. The last day, this is the way the story goes. The last day, one of the last places they had to test before they build, they sunk the big stake down plank. And so they started to excavate and dig, and lo and behold, they find the town of Magdala that had been covered up. Well, it had been destroyed, and you're gonna get lots of history, read all the history you can, but if you think about the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem back in the 500 BC, and then the Romans destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, so 30 years after Jesus. When the Romans came in 68, when Magdala was destroyed, they destroyed Magdala. It was a Jewish town, and the revolt was full blown, and this is a war, and they came in. In Magdala, we see that they took the pillars from the synagogue and they put them at the city gate to try and keep the Romans out. That's why, and they're like, why are they there and not, well, that's why. But a landslide had happened then after 70 AD, buried the whole town until 2008, when, thanks to our Catholic brothers and sisters, we're making a retreat center, and they have unearthed the entire town of Magdala. You will get to see what they call mikvahs, which is the ritual bathing. Before you would go into the synagogue, you would go into the water and kind of cleanse yourself to bathe. A mikvah always had to have running, ideal mikvah had running water. So this is down, and then still in the mikvah, some of the water goes because the water table's there. So you see where the Jewish people did that. And the most exciting thing about this site is it's a synagogue. It's an actual first century synagogue. A lot of the places in the Holy Land, because of time in Jerusalem, when you walk the Via Dolorosa, you'll be like 20, 40 feet above where Jesus actually was. Although really excitingly, they've excavated down below, and we'll go down below and we will see some of the steps that our Lord walked across on his way to the cross. So you'll go down to that. But here in Magdala, this is the spot. Now, the Gospels tell us Jesus went to all the towns in Galilee preaching the good news. He was there. You can see where he walked into that synagogue, and you can see the bench seating around. You'll learn more about this Magdala stone. They found a stone. This is a replica now because the other one's in the Jerusalem Museum, the actual one. But we'll talk about this and learn more about what's on the side of it and what it represents. It's still a bit of a mystery. I think it was a lectern of some kind, personally. I know it's low to the ground, but maybe they sat and read. I don't know. But in a synagogue, what we knew is that they had bench seating around, and then there were pillars. But a lot of scholars in the last, I don't know, I want to say in the Enlightenment, let's say in the last 50 years, because they are not too sure about the gospel. Sorry, yes. Tweaking in the back, there we go. They're not too sure about the Gospels, whether they're really telling history right. They really thought that there were no synagogues, like actual churches, like we have. That a synagogue, which literally in Hebrew is just a gathering, that's what it means. They thought that, well, they were homes or they were temporary. There were no, and the New Testament writers are reading that back in. But here we go. They found not just this one, but they found literally almost dozens other actual synagogues where people gathered to hear the word and pray and worship. And so you'll get to be right there. And the cool thing is, since it's Magdala, okay, what does that ring a bell?
Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdala. This is where she's from. Now, we didn't hear that Jesus did anything necessarily, or did we? So we're gonna do a new share here. We're gonna go back to another Bible story. And we're gonna go over here to Mark 5. So we know about Mary Magdala. She had these evil spirits cast out from her. There's a lot of misinformation. People equate her with another woman that Jesus says, was maybe a prostitute or something like that. That is, I think it was Pope Gregory that made that equation, but the gospel writers don't do that. What we know about Mary Magdala is that she had these spirits, and The Chosen does a beautiful job if you're watching that series with Mary Magdala. Well, because it's Magdala and we know Mary, the Catholic Church has, I forget the order that's in charge of it, has built a retreat center in honor of all the women disciples. So all the women in the New Testament are celebrated in what you will see is the most amazing chapel. And then down below, well, I'll show you some pictures in a minute, but let's first get this story on in our heads. So, and Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side. Where was he? He was over in the Gentile area. Now he goes back. So where did he go back to? I don't know, but Magdala was one of the biggest, ports. We can even see today where they had live fishing wells where people would come and get fish right from there. And like I said last time, we're going to get to eat a tilapia St. Peter fish. And it's really good. So I think that restaurant's still going. So then one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus, my person's sick. And so he's got this little daughter that's sick, and Jesus, come help. And a great followed, and they thronged around him. And then look what happens. And a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all she had, and was no better, but grew worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I just touch even his garments, I will be made well. And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing around you, and yet you say, who touched me? What's your deal, Jesus? Everybody's touching you. And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling. And this would be a big deal for a woman to approach a rabbi in this way. And fell down before him and told him the whole truth. That he said to her, daughter. So look at this beautiful term, daughter. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. Her faith in Jesus had made her well. Well, we don't know where that happened as such. But get back to my spot here. In this retreat center, and I'll show you some pictures now, there is a room down below. It's got a little altar because a lot of folks will have mass there, or they have Holy Communion there. We are going to do a service of healing and anointing of oil there, but that is a first century road. So, it's cool to think maybe Jesus walked across there on his way at Magdala. And you can see in the background an amazing portrait, which pictures just do not do it justice, not at all, but you will get to see it. And it's just this amazing depiction. You see the woman, I like to think she probably grabbed onto it, but anyway, just touching his garment, and it's absolutely breathtaking. And so that'll be one of the worship places that we do that's underneath but you're gonna have time just to mill around Magdala. It has just a beautiful feel. It's beautiful. We had some chance of actually staying there because now the retreat center is finished. And you can stay there on site, but Russ has still not gotten any progress there yet. So there's still a small chance, I think, but we're not far away from it, but we're gonna have plenty of time to just, you're gonna see the remains of Magdala. We're gonna go to the retreat center, which is this beautiful chapel, and it's got these separate little small chapels, all with mosaic portraits of different happenings in Jesus's life. You're gonna have time to just go there and have quiet time. We'll go down below to this room. We'll have, like I say, a little worship service there, and then you'll have more time. My plan is just for you to just have, like I say, some free time there. Of course, there is a little gift shop. Yeah.
Another nerd moment. If any of you have ever read a book by Margaret George called Mary Called Magdalene, it is wonderful. I mean, and it's fiction, but I think it's like The Chosen. It's very grounded fiction.
Yeah, right.
And it does kind of talk about Mary being possessed and what she goes through and how Jesus heals her and all that stuff. It's a really, really great book. It's not that thick, so it's a big one, but it's fast to read. It's cool. Mary Called Magdalene. And it's by Margaret George.
Margaret George.
The book, my dad has it right now, so I will try to bring it if anybody wants to borrow mine, but
that would be a great novel to read.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's really powerful to be there. And I love that we've got a spot celebrating the women disciples.
Yeah.
What we'll hear when we go there is the way Jesus related and interacted with women was unthinkable in his day. You look at what Aristotle, you look at Plato, you look at everybody said about women, and here, when you read the Gospels, not from our 21st century eyes, but from first century eyes, it is amazing. The fact that he had women who were part of his disciple group was amazing. So, so anyway, it's a really beautiful place and it's a really great moment, and I can't wait for you to be there. Okay, other thoughts about this story I know I said we'd go to 1:30, but I'm conscious of time in your afternoon, so there's the picture again. I can't get enough of that picture. And then there's some beautiful daisies on the Sea of Galilee there. We'll be doing other things there. Of course, we're going to be going to see where, Peter jumped out of the boat to, and when Jesus was raised from the dead. We don't know for sure about that, but that's the traditional place, of course. And they've marked some other spots where the feeding of the 5,000 and some other stories there. So we'll be bouncing around a little bit while we're there, but it'll really ground you. And now when you read the Gospels, you're gonna know exactly, where it is and where it was. So, all right, so that's our prep time finished. Questions about anything and everything, other things. I was thinking, like I said in my email, that the next get together, we won't do this so much like Bible study prep, but we'll do logistics. But it's not, we have a little bit of time to talk about, ins and outs and do's and don'ts and recommendations and what you should get and what kind of shoes and what kind of dress, all of those types of things. But are there any more pressing questions? No, there's no not good question. Yeah, please, Joe.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Earlier, you said that we were going to affirm our baptism.
Yes.
Does that mean or?
Okay. It's in the... Great question. See, this is a practical question. So does it mean this or this? I love it. It's right in the middle. So, no, so what we will do is we will go down, the traditional place of Jesus's baptism, the Jordan River, although you'll see lots of people being baptized, is kind of muddy. It's not beautiful. And that's probably where we will go. It's right on the border, obviously, with Jordan, and we will we're gonna pair up or get in groups of 3 or 4 and each person put water on the forehead and affirm baptism. Now, if there's someone in our group that's not baptized, I'm not aware of that, but if there is someone that's not ever been baptized and you want to be baptized, please talk to me. Because we can definitely make that happen there. So, one year we affirmed our baptism up on the Sea of Galilee, but I want to do it in the Jordan River, so, yeah. So great question. Yeah, good. Other questions like that, or that you're just, okay, please, Beth.
Pastor Bill mentioned the chosen, and I don't know if you've gotten as far as this Jairus and the
Right there, that's right where we're
Those
at.
are really good. They're very well done.
Yeah,
Also, so
cool. Yeah, excellent.
having been to Israel before and then watching that and been to these places, I think Craig would agree, it's really
Yeah,
brought some, yeah.
you
Now I'm
feel like
excited to
you're
go
right
back
there.
and see it
Yeah.
again, yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And the next season, they should be out. this
Season
fall.
4 in the fall, yeah.
Yeah,
So it continues on.
Yeah. And season 4, I don't think they get to the cross yet in season 4, right?
No,
I think
there's-
season,
there's 7 seasons.
Yeah.
seven seasons,
They have
okay.
7 seasons planned,
Yeah.
but they film a season, then they show it. Then they film a season, because so the last season ended like late winter.
Okay, yeah, cool,
Yeah, so,
yeah. Chuck, were you gonna say something? Okay.
yes, it is.
Yeah. No, I think I'm impressed so far with it, so. Anybody else? Any other questions? Logistics, you all have got your passports, right? Get your passport, all that, good. All right, well, don't hesitate, let me know. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, and we'll go forth and, you do, please do, I've checked this out, you can get to the app, you take the app open. I know it's small, you can't see, but you just scroll up and you find the Israel, you press that and you'll see all of the resources right there. And they're actually in order. It's the same, and I know in the email I sent you the link to the website, and it's the same that way. So I'll upload this presentation, my PowerPoint, and the recording of this talk today. And then I'll also be adding, the things for you to read and other stuff like that. And the itinerary is there. I made a few tweaks to the itinerary that we'll get to, but nothing at this point. But a little later, we've changed a few things, so. One thing, okay, no more questions? Just before we go, one thing to pray about, that we do want to spend some time talking about, in one of our upcoming sessions is obviously we are going into a land that is very divided. That there's a lot of conflict. We're not going into a situation where you need to feel unsafe. Millions of people go there every day. Russ has groups there all the time, and there's no problems. There's always risk in life for anything, but the risk is very small. Like I usually say a million times, I'm more worried to go over to Seattle than I am to go to Israel. So, but nonetheless, it is a world where there's huge conflict, as you all know. What part of our Sunday there, what we've done in all of my trips before is when we go, we work Bethlehem into Sunday, and then we go to the Christmas Lutheran Church. And which, if you didn't know, there is a small but very active and vibrant Lutheran Palestinian Christian community. And I like for us to go and worship with them. we might bring an offering. I think when we were there before, it was confirmation Sunday, and we brought quilts for all those being confirmed. And it was really special. The unfortunate part is you're always pressed for time, you know, and it was confirmation Sunday, so we couldn't really say afterwards, because we want you to see the Church of the Nativity, the birthplace of Christ. We want you to see all of that. And also in Bethlehem is the best falafel there is. So you want to have time for that. You know, please be praying for our Lutheran Palestinian Christian brothers and sisters. They play a really interesting role between the Israelis, the Jewish community, and the Muslim Palestinian community. And they tend to get the same persecution, if you will, or treatment from the Israeli government. Don't hear that I'm like criticizing the Israeli government. It's their democracy and it's a mess, and pray for their government because they've been really conflicted there as well. But the reason I say that is I hope we can still go worship there. We are a little bit bigger than the groups before, so it's not a huge church, and so I'm working on that. The one connection I have is the Lutheran pastor that's now one of the pastors in the Lutheran church in Jerusalem, very close to Bethlehem, is a person I confirmed from my home church in Lodi, Megan Johnson. And she married a Palestinian Lutheran man, and who's also a pastor, and so they are currently in Jerusalem. So I don't know how all that'll play out, but when we're in Jerusalem, I also work in time for you to have some freedom to just walk around Jerusalem. We'll also, after dinner, one of the nights, we'll go and take an evening stroll through Jerusalem because it's just gorgeous and this type of thing. And I want you to see the Lutheran church in Jerusalem. So that's my job, to work with our tour company and make sure we get enough time for that. So anyway, so there you go. There's some more fun tidbits, but please be praying about, you know, can we worship there? Will it be helpful and good? And, you know, all of that. So that's an ongoing prayer concern. Okay. Peace to you. Thank you. Great to have you guys here. Very excited. Every time I see you in the group together, I get more excited. Here, sit on side. Stay here for a minute. Switching settings. Okay. Barb. Let's see, I'll ask you to unmute.
Yes.
There you go. Let me get you on my speaker here. Microphone, speaker, audio. Okay, so was the hearing okay today?
Yes, the hearing was great today. Yeah. And I'm going to be in town for the next one, October 8th.
Oh, cool. That's great.
So you're preaching that day, right?
October 8th. I think I am, as it turns out. I think you
I lucked out.
Or you unlucked out, you know, depending on one's perspective. So anyway.
No, everything was really great today. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. All
Okay.
right. Well, thanks, guys.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Yeah.
Okay. Bye.